In July 1996, 9 people entered the Cascade Mountains for a camping trip. By morning, only 1 remained. 8 people, 7 teenagers, and 2 adult leaders vanished without a trace. 4 years later, an anonymous letter brought the survivor back. What he found would expose a trafficking ring that had operated for over a decade. But the real question wasn't what happened to them, it was why one boy was left behind. July 12, 2000. Ethan Walsh stands at Wildwood Camp, staring at 7 stones arranged in a circle. Each bears a name. Each represents a friend who never came home. 4 years, he whispers, and I still don't know why it was me. Portland, Oregon, summer heat. Ethan Walsh, 13, stuffed a sleeping bag into his backpack. His mother watched from the doorway, worry lines deepening. Got your flashlight? Yes, Mom. 3rd time she'd asked. 2 scout vans pulled up. 7 boys piled in. Marcus, Tyler, and 5 others, all between 13 and 15, all excited for their first overnight wilderness trip. Mr. Garrett, the scoutmaster, did head count, clipboard in hand, professional, organized. Everyone here? Good. Wildwood Camp awaits. 2 nights, 3 days. By Sunday, you'll all earn your wilderness survival badge. The word survival would take on a different meaning by morning. 90-minute drive, deep into Cascade National Forest. Logging roads becoming rougher, trees pressing closer. At the trailhead, Mr. Phillips, assistant leader, distributed packs, half-mile hike, stay together. The campsite was beautiful, clearing surrounded by Douglas firs, creek nearby, mountains visible through branches. Everything looked safe, normal, exactly what a scout camp should be. But Ethan noticed something odd. Mr. Garrett checked his watch 3 times in 10 minutes. And his phone, despite being in a no-service area, stayed glued to his hand. Expecting a call, Ethan asked. Garrett smiled. Too quickly. Just checking the time. Lot to do before dark. They set up tents, built fire pit, cooked hot dogs. As darkness fell, Mr. Garrett gathered everyone around flames. Shadows danced across young faces. They were children, trusting, excited. None of them knew what was coming. Tomorrow, survival training. Tonight, rest up, lights out by 10. Around 8 p.m., during dinner, Mr. Phillips handed out sports drinks, blue liquid, in plastic bottles. Electrolytes, he explained. You'll need them for tomorrow's hike. Everyone drank, even the leaders. It seemed normal, helpful even. But Ethan noticed his bottle tasted different. Bitter, like medicine masked with artificial sweetener. He pretended to drink, poured most of it into the dirt when no one was looking. By 9 p.m., the camp had gone quiet. Too quiet. Tyler was snoring, unusual for someone who normally talked until midnight. Marcus hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Ethan lay awake in his tent, heart pounding. Something was wrong. Being the only one awake felt like drowning while everyone else slept peacefully underwater. 10:30 p.m. Voices outside. Low, adult, unfamiliar. Ethan unzipped the tent flap slightly, peered out. What he saw shattered the illusion of safety. Mr. Garrett stood near the fire pit, talking to a man Ethan didn't recognize. Dark clothing, no scout uniform. Behind them, partially hidden by trees, a vehicle, not a scout van. The stranger handed something to Garrett, an envelope, thick. Garrett turned toward the tents. This one's ready. Start with the far tent. Panic flooded through Ethan. He shook Marcus awake. Marcus, something's wrong. But Marcus was barely conscious, eyes unfocused, words slurred. Wah, sleepy. Tyler didn't respond at all. Footsteps approaching, multiple sets. Ethan grabbed his flashlight, slipped out the back of the tent, where it wasn't fully staked, crawled into darkness. For 75 minutes, hidden 30 yards into the forest, Ethan watched his entire troop disappear. Mr. Garrett and Mr. Phillips moved tent to tent, carried sleeping scouts, loaded them into vehicles. A stranger helped, another man too. 4 adults total. Marcus, Tyler, 5 others, all carried like cargo. None woke, none struggled. Ethan counted. 8 people loaded into 2 vehicles, the 3rd van and an unmarked truck. But the original scout vans remained parked at the trailhead, empty. They'd planned this, brought additional transport. Around midnight, the vehicles pulled away, headlights off, moving slowly down the logging road. Ethan waited until silence returned, until he was absolutely sure they were gone. When he crept back to camp, the tents stood empty, sleeping bags laid out, backpacks untouched, fire pit still warm, but every person gone. He sat alone in the center of camp until dawn broke over the mountains. And for 4 years, Ethan would carry one question: why was he the only one left behind? Search parties arrived by noon. Police, rangers, volunteers with dogs. Ethan told his story again and again and again. You saw them being carried away and didn't call for help. I was scared. I didn't know. A 13-year-old boy witnesses 8 abductions and doesn't scream, doesn't run for help. The investigators' doubt became Ethan's own. Maybe I should have screamed. Maybe I could have stopped it. The police found evidence, but drew wrong conclusions. Tire tracks, 3 vehicles. Investigators assumed scout vans plus a park ranger who checked the area days earlier. Footprints, multiple adult boot prints, but scouts had been there 2 days. Area heavily trafficked, impossible to determine which prints were from that night. Disturbed ground. Near the fire pit, soil looked freshly turned. Police thought it was from setting up camp. The empty sports drink bottles were collected as trash. Never tested for sedatives. Days passed. No ransom demands, no bodies, no sightings. The prevailing theory, Mr. Garrett had taken the scouts on an unauthorized side trip, would return soon. Weeks passed. Theory shifted. Murder-suicide. Garrett killed everyone, hid the bodies, disappeared. Months passed. Theory became resignation. They were gone, probably dead. Case would likely never be solved. But Ethan knew something investigators didn't. He'd seen money change hands. This wasn't impulse. It was business. By 1997, the case closed unsolved. Wildwood shut down. Troop 47 disbanded. Ethan grew up alone with his knowledge. Classmates whispered. Teachers looked at him with pity mixed with suspicion. The boy who watched his friends disappear. The boy who did nothing. Anxiety, nightmares, therapy sessions where he recounted that night until the words lost meaning. Why didn't I scream? You were 13. Terrified, you survived. But survival felt like punishment, not luck. May 2000, 4 years after that night. Ethan was 17, senior year of high school, filling out college applications, trying to build a future from the wreckage of his past. Then the letter arrived. Plain envelope, no return address, Portland postmark, Ethan Walsh. You were right. They were taken, not lost. Return to Wildwood Camp, 50 feet north of the fire pit. Dig 18 inches down. The truth has been waiting 4 years. Destroy this letter after reading. No signature. His first thought, trap. Someone luring him back to finish what they started in 1996. His second thought, hope. Maybe someone knew what happened. Maybe the truth was finally coming. He called Detective Sarah Morrison, now a senior investigator. I got an anonymous letter. Says something's buried at the campsite. Silence on the other end. Then, this could be a prank, or worse, or it could be real. If you go, I'm coming with you. 2 days later, Ethan stood at the Wildwood trailhead. 4 years since he'd been here. The trail closed sign was rusted now, bent. Morrison brought 2 officers. They hiked the half-mile. The clearing looked smaller, nature reclaiming it, but the fire pit remained, filled with years of leaves and dirt. 50 feet north, Morrison said, pulling out measuring tape. They marked the spot, started digging. 6 inches, nothing. 12 inches, still nothing. 18 inches, metal, a rusted tin box. Military-style ammo container. Inside, photographs, documents, a leather journal. The photographs showed the scouts, but not from the camping trip. Training sessions months earlier, and in several photos, adults Ethan didn't recognize. The journal belonged to Mr. Garrett. Entries from 1994 to July 1996. Morrison read aloud. March 15, 1996, recruitment phase progressing. 6 candidates identified from Troop 47. Phillips confirms transport routes. Timeline finalized for July operation. May 3, 1996, meeting with benefactor successful. Security protocol approved. Must ensure Walsh boy excluded. Too observant during training. Asks too many questions about procedures. July 10, 1996, final phase confirmed. All packages secured. Extraction scheduled 22:30, July 12. Duration 75 minutes. Walsh boy will be managed separately per family financial arrangement. Walsh boy will be managed separately per family financial arrangement. Walsh boy payment received $50,000. Ethan felt the world tilt. Family arrangement? Walsh boy Walsh. Morrison flipped through pages, found a ledger, payment records. Walsh boy Portland $50,000, February 1996, and his own family had paid to keep him safe while 7 other boys were sold. But the journal held one more secret, the names of everyone involved. Morrison's team moved fast. DNA evidence from the journal, fingerprints on photographs, financial transaction trails. The photographs matched missing person reports across the Northwest. Young people who disappeared throughout the 1990s without trace. Garrett ran a trafficking network, Morrison explained. The scouts weren't killed, they were sold. Illegal adoptions to European buyers who paid between $80,000 and $120,000 per child. Standard operation, target youth programs, identify candidates from troubled or single-parent homes, drug them during supervised activities, transport during legitimate trips where temporary disappearance wouldn't trigger immediate alarms. The sports drinks at dinner contained benzodiazepines. By 9 p.m., everyone was sedated. By 10:30, extraction teams arrived. By midnight, the scouts were in transit to holding locations before international transfer. We thought the footprints and tire tracks were from different days. We were wrong. There were extra vehicles that night, but they parked where scout vans had been parked during setup. The overlapping tracks masked the evidence. Ethan stared at crime scene photos from 1996 he'd never seen. You had evidence all along. We had data. We lacked context to interpret it correctly. Systems designed to protect had failed. Not through malice, but through assumptions that seemed reasonable at the time. Why was I excluded? Ethan asked. Morrison pulled up the journal entry. You were too observant. During training exercises in spring 1996, you asked why certain parents weren't on emergency contact lists. Why Mr. Garrett took individual scouts on separate mentoring trips. Your questions made them nervous. So my uncle paid to save me. Robert Walsh had gambling debts, major ones. He was recruited as a financial backer for the trafficking ring in late 1995. When he learned his nephew would be on the July camping trip, he panicked. He paid $50,000, double the normal fee to ensure you were excluded from both the drugging and the extraction. Garrett's plan was simple. Give you a separate meal container marked differently. No sedatives. You'd be awake during the operation. You'd either hide or run. Either way, you wouldn't be taken. Being left behind hadn't been chance. It had been purchased. The other families never knew. Their sons drugged, taken, sold, while Robert Walsh's nephew came home safe. DNA evidence led to arrests across 3 states, a trafficking ring operating since 1989. Mr. Garrett was found in Nevada under an assumed name, Mr. Phillips in California, both arrested within 48 hours. Under interrogation, Garrett cooperated immediately. No loyalty among criminals facing life sentences. The scouts were sold to families in Europe, Spain, Germany, Czech Republic, wealthy buyers wanting children but unable or unwilling to navigate legal adoption channels. We facilitated private placements. Where are they now? New identities, forged birth certificates. Their American lives were completely erased, but locating the scouts would take months of painstaking work. We started with international DNA databases, Morrison explained, 6 months into the search. Cross-referenced familial DNA from the scouts' biological parents with adoption records in Spain, Germany, and Czech Republic. First match, 8 months after arrests. A man in Madrid, DNA matched Marcus's parents through kinship analysis in Interpol's database. After that, we worked backwards through consulate records, Morrison continued. Found visa applications for adopted children entering Spain in late 1996. 4 names matched age ranges and physical descriptions. Over the next 6 months, Tyler, located in Prague, identified through Czech Republic adoption records. 2 others in Germany, flagged through embassy childhood vaccination records that showed discrepancies in documented medical histories. Each identification took weeks, Morrison said. Some had legal adoption papers, others had forged documents. We had to verify every detail before making contact. By late 2001, 5 years after the abduction, 4 scouts had been located. All adults now, ages 18 to 20. None remembered their American lives before age 14. 3 remained missing. According to Garrett's admission, likely deceased during transport or shortly after due to complications. But one question remained. Who sent Ethan the letter? Morrison confronted Garrett directly. Who buried the journal? Who sent Walsh the letter? Garrett's face went pale. First genuine emotion he'd shown. I buried it. Insurance policy in case my partners decided to eliminate me. Standard procedure in operations like ours. Documented leverage. But I didn't send any letter. Journal was supposed to stay hidden until I needed it. Then who dug it up? Silence. For 3 weeks, investigators assumed the letter came from a trafficking victim, someone who'd escaped, someone seeking revenge. They were wrong. 3 weeks after Garrett's arrest, Ethan received a second letter. Different handwriting, longer. Mr. Walsh, my name is David Chen. I was Mr. Phillips's logistics assistant in 1995-1996. I helped with transportation coordination, safe house arrangements, document forgery. I didn't know the full scope of the operation until too late. When I realized we were trafficking children, not helping troubled youth like Phillips claimed, I couldn't stay. I left the organization in early 1997. For years, I tried to forget, tried to pretend I hadn't been complicit. But in 1999, my son was born. I looked at him, so small, so trusting, and thought about those scouts, about their families. I realized I had to make it right. In May 2000, I returned to Wildwood Camp. 4 years of guilt had finally outweighed my fear. I searched the area, looking for anything that might help. I found Garrett's buried journal, read it, understood the full horror of what we'd done. I reburied it, then I sent you the letter. I knew if anyone deserved to find the truth, it was you, the boy they deliberately left behind. I'm sorry I waited so long. I'm sorry for what I helped do. The enclosed information will help you find the last 3 scouts. I'm turning myself in to authorities after mailing this. Whatever punishment I receive, I've earned. Attached, names, locations, contact information for trafficking facilitators in Eastern Europe who'd handled the 1996 transports. Chen's information led investigators to Marcus in 2001. Madrid, teaching English, married to a Spanish woman, no memory of life before age 14. Tyler found in Prague, 2002, working as a software engineer. Same story, complete amnesia of his American childhood. Ethan flew to Spain to meet Marcus. They stood in a Madrid park, 2 survivors of the same nightmare, separated by vastly different experiences. I don't remember that night, Marcus said. His English carried a slight Spanish accent now. Everything before age 14 is blank. My adoptive parents, I still think of them as my parents, told me I was in a car accident, that my American family died. For 20 years, I believed it. Who am I supposed to be now? Marcus Torres? Or whoever I was before? You're whoever you want to be, Ethan said. But you deserve to choose that. They took that choice. Marcus looked at him. You saw it happen. You remember everything. I wish I didn't. I wish I did. Marcus paused. You did nothing wrong. You were 13. You survived. That matters. The loneliness Ethan had carried for years finally found company and shared understanding. 1 year later, justice would finally arrive. The trials lasted 8 months. Federal Court, Portland, Oregon. Mr. Garrett, guilty. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping, human trafficking across international borders, fraud, sentence, life without parole. Mr. Phillips, guilty. Same charges, life without parole. David Chen, guilty. Lesser charges due to cooperation. Sentence, 12 years, eligible for parole after 8. Robert Walsh, guilty. Financial conspiracy, accessory to trafficking. Sentence, 15 years. At sentencing, Robert looked at Ethan across the courtroom. I didn't know what would happen to the other boys, I swear. I just wanted to keep you safe. Ethan said nothing. Words felt insufficient. July 12, 2003. 7 years after that night, Ethan stood at Wildwood Camp. Same clearing, same mountains visible through trees. But now, 7 stones formed a circle, memorial markers placed by the families. 4 names engraved with found 2001, 2002. 3 marked simply missing, not forgotten. Marcus had flown from Spain for the dedication. Tyler from Prague. The two found German scouts as well. 4 survivors, together for the first time since childhood. Do you still have nightmares? Marcus asked. Sometimes. You? Always. But therapy helps. They couldn't undo what happened, couldn't restore lost years or stolen identities. But they could choose what came next. The Wildwood Camp case changed youth program regulations nationwide. New federal laws enacted within 2 years, mandatory dual adult supervision, GPS tracking devices on all wilderness trips, random welfare checks during overnight programs, enhanced background screening, immediate family notification protocols. The Boy Scouts of America implemented sweeping reforms. Youth protection training became mandatory for all adult volunteers. Ethan became a victims' rights advocate, working with law enforcement, speaking at schools, helping other trafficking survivors navigate recovery. I didn't choose to be the one left behind, he told audiences, but I can choose what I do with that survival. David Chen, after serving his sentence, started a nonprofit dedicated to locating trafficking victims and facilitating family reunification. The journal Ethan found led to writing Tikti-2 arrests across 4 states, shutdown of a network that had operated for 15 years, recovery of 17 trafficking victims, $2.3 million in restitution paid to families. Not perfect. 3 scouts from Troop 47 still missing, likely dead. But something. Progress built on terrible truths. Ethan stood at the memorial as sun set over the Cascades. Same mountains, same trees, different understanding. He placed a smooth river stone on Marcus's memorial marker, a Spanish tradition Marcus had taught him. The campsite was peaceful now, just trees and creek and distant peaks. But Ethan knew what happened here. Knew evil wore a trusted uniform and smiled while planning atrocities. And he knew, thanks to one buried journal and one conscience that couldn't stay silent, that some truths refused to stay buried forever. He'd returned to this place 3 times, first as a terrified child, then as a traumatized teenager seeking answers, now as an adult who'd transformed survival into purpose. The question that haunted him for 7 years had finally been answered. He wasn't left behind by chance. He was left behind so he could bring everyone home. Not alive, not whole, but remembered, named, mourned properly. And in remembering, ensuring it could never happen in silence again.